We are taught to look at world maps and see neat, color-coded shapes with solid borders. We assume those borders contain unified nations. But treating Afghanistan as a solitary, cohesive country is a modern fiction, one that has cost global empires trillions of dollars and millions of lives to figure out. For most of human history, this territory functioned organically as a decentralized crossroads. The ancient Silk Road passed right through these valleys. Wealth, culture, and trade constantly flowed across the landscape, but that power never pooled into a single permanent capital. That dynamic changed when the industrial age arrived. European empires didn't want a fluid network of trade routes. They wanted hard borders to protect their territorial claims in Asia. By the late 19th century, foreign powers like the British began drawing arbitrary lines through these mountains, attempting to box in a fluid region. They imposed boundaries that split ancient tribal lands in half and demanded the territory act like a European nation-state. But drawing a boundary on paper does not conjure a nation into existence. Instead of creating a stable buffer state, these lines mapped out an inescapable trap for anyone who tried to enforce them. The British fought 3 separate wars here and ultimately withdrew. In 1979, the Soviet Union sent massive columns of tanks across the border. A decade later, their military machine retreated in total defeat. Then came the United States and its NATO allies. For 20 years, they spent trillions of dollars attempting to build a centralized, Western-style government in Kabul. In August of 2021, that government evaporated almost overnight. This ledger of defeat prompts an obvious question. Why do the most technologically advanced militaries in human history repeatedly fail to control this one specific piece of land? The answer has nothing to do with a lack of firepower. It comes down to a structural misunderstanding of the target. Invading armies exhaust themselves trying to conquer a central nervous system that simply does not exist. This map visualizes the actual demographic reality of the region. Afghanistan officially recognizes 14 distinct ethnic groups. You have Pashtuns in the south and east, Tajiks in the northeast, Uzbeks and Hazaras in the north and center. There is no natural, overarching demographic majority to anchor a central Pashtun tribes. This system dictates that absolute loyalty belongs to the clan, the village elders, and the valley. An edict signed by a politician hundreds of miles away in Kabul carries almost zero weight. This tribal isolation is enforced by the terrain itself. The towering Hindu Kush mountain range slices right through the center of the territory, physically cutting communities off from one another. These immense geological walls act as a natural fortress. A centralized government relies on the ability to project power, to send police, to build infrastructure, and collect taxes. Here, the geography makes that logistics chain nearly impossible to maintain. Conversely, local fighters use this exact same terrain to their advantage. Operating in small, self-sustaining units, they launch exhausting, decentralized insurgencies against conventional armies that are bogged down on the few available roads. The graveyard of empires is not some mystical curse. It is the mathematical result of foreign powers trying to force centralization onto an organically decentralized, geographically shielded network of tribes. This sprawling, rugged landscape holds one of the most extreme, enduring contradictions found anywhere on the face of the Earth. On the surface, roughly 23 million people, half the population, are currently trapped in a humanitarian emergency. But underground, the geological layers hold an estimated $1 to $3 trillion in untapped mineral wealth. Thousands of years ago, this wealth sat at the center of the world. By 5000 BCE, early farming settlements thrived here, eventually evolving into a vital nexus connecting the Bronze Age empires and the Silk Road. That geographic value drew a constant stream of foreign powers. Alexander the Great marched his armies through these passes in 330 BC, followed centuries later by the Muslim conquests and the sweeping hordes of Genghis Khan. Afghanistan's foundational identity was forged by its position on the map. It became a strategic prize that historically destroys whoever tries to claim it. As industrialized empires arrived, the timeline of failed conquests accelerated. The British Empire launched 3 separate wars, absorbing humiliating defeats before finally relinquishing control. In 1979, the Soviet Union sent its military across the border. A decade later, facing a massive economic bleed and thousands of casualties, Soviet forces withdrew, leaving behind millions of spent artillery shells and a fractured country. Then came the United States. 2 decades of intervention, trillions spent, and total initial technological dominance ended in August 2021 with the sudden, chaotic collapse of the US-backed government. Almost overnight, the Taliban swept back into Kabul. Armed with billions in captured weaponry, they crushed organized civilian resistance and declared a new emirate. We have to ask, why do the most heavily armed, well-funded militaries in human history repeatedly fail to secure this specific piece of land? Invading empires rely on a standard political map. They see a single territory called Afghanistan, managed through a glowing node in Kabul. But on the ground, that border shatters. The state recognizes 14 distinct ethnic groups, creating a complex mosaic of overlapping territories. In these rural areas, authority isn't from distant politicians. Power flows to local elders and ancient honor codes, prioritizing loyalty to the tribe. Foreign powers exhaust their treasuries trying to control Afghanistan from the top down, struggling to manage a centralized nation-state that simply does not exist. This localized power structure is enforced by the terrain. These regions are defined by dizzying gorges and the most impassable topography on the planet. The massive peaks of the Hindu Kush slice the region into isolated valleys, severing foreign supply lines and rendering modern armored vehicles nearly useless. Living in extreme geographic isolation breeds a fierce resistance mindset. Local populations are naturally hostile to any outside authority attempting to impose new rules. In these mountains, the graveyard of empires is a literal physical calculation. Geography mechanically swallows and crushes centralized military ambition. Yet beneath that exact same hostile geography, geologists have mapped an entirely different future for the region. This geological data map plots the scale of those hidden resources. Deep underground, surveys estimate 60 million tons of copper, 2.2 billion tons of iron ore, and 1.4 million tons of rare earth minerals. The key asset is lithium. These deposits are so vast the Pentagon dubbed it the Saudi Arabia of lithium, essential for battery power. Here lies the infrastructural paradox. Extracting billions of dollars in heavy metals requires massive road networks, high-capacity power grids, and a stable, unified state. The exact same mountains that hide this immense wealth prevent anyone from building the nation required to dig it out. Today, while foreign investors quietly negotiate for future mining rights, the current Taliban regime presides over a collapsing economy on the surface. Crippled by international sanctions and historic droughts, the country is suffering an acute emergency. Millions of citizens are entirely reliant on international food aid distributions just to survive. Simultaneously, human rights have regressed. The unrecognized government has erased women from public life, banning them from most workplaces and barring girls from attending secondary school. The population has not universally accepted this shift. Women continue to risk their lives holding signs in the streets, demanding equal rights and pushing back against authoritarian control. The independence, rugged terrain, and tribal loyalties that successfully defended Afghanistan from foreign empires are now the exact same forces keeping its people isolated, impoverished, and fractured from within.